So let's go ahead and take a look at the state of our game. I'm going to go and click on the rock, and it shows both of the pictures. I click on the paper, it shows both of the pictures and whether I won or lost. And I click on the scissors, and then it shows both of the choices and whether I won or lost. And so I can keep on clicking. One thing you might notice is when you click off of the buttons, everything disappears, right? And why is that? Because when you click off of the buttons, it still runs the click function definition, but the only thing is that none of these if statements are true, right? So that's not true, this is not true, and this third one is not true, right? And so because all of them are not true, none of this happens, right? So that's why we get that effect where everything disappears. And one of the challenge exercises a while back was to make it so that the click function doesn't even run when you click off of the buttons. All right. So yeah, that might be something you might want to work on, but if not, then we can keep it the way it is here. And one thing I wanted to do before moving forward was to just go through our code and clean it up a little bit. All right. And what do I mean by clean it up? Well, something I noticed as I was going through the code is this is if I'm clicking on the rock. Let me put here rock button. This is if I'm clicking on the rock button. Well, what do? I do a pen up and I do a go to -150, 0. All right. And what about over here when I click on the paper button? I also do a pen up and a go to -150, 0. What about over here when I click on the scissors button? I also do a pen up, go to -150, 0. So since I do it in all three of the branches, right, what I can do is to make my code shorter is to take that out and put it right here and take it out of every single branch. Right? So I could take it out of that one. I could take it out of this one, and I could take it out of this one as well. All right. So now our code has gotten shorter. We've wrote it once because it happens in all of the branches, and then each branch is going to write it in the right spot. All right. And now that I'm looking at my code, I think that this is not supposed to be here as well, right? Because this was supposed to put the turtle in the right location so that I could write you chose rock in the right location. But then I think I moved it around, and it eventually ended up at -150. So I'm going to erase this because that's not needed. And let's see. So now I'm continuing to look through my code, and I'm trying to check, is there anything else that I could take out of a branch because it's happening in all of the branches, right? Now, notice here that what I am doing is I'm changing shape to arrow. I am going to 150, 0, and I'm checking what did the computer choose. And based on what the computer chose, I'm writing computer chose whatever they chose, and then I'm saying go to the left side of the screen and then stamp the picture below the printed text, right? So the printed text was at 0 on the y-axis, and then the picture is printed at -100 on the y-axis, so below where the text is printed. And I do the same thing if they choose paper or they choose scissors. Okay, so this all happens in all of the code, and so does this here, this and all of this, right? So we have it here when we click on the rock button. We have this, all of this stuff, whoa, all the way down to here. And then when we click on the paper button, you'll notice we also have all of the exact same code. Okay. And then if I click on the scissors button, I have all of the exact same code. All right. So since I have it in all of the branches, what I can do is I can go ahead and cut it out, and I could put it right there. Right? So after the branch finishes executing, it will always do this, which is print out the computer's choice and the computer's picture. So since I put this block of code here at the end of my click function so that it always happens, that means I could take it out of this branch. I can go ahead and take it out of this branch as well. And I could take it out of this branch here as well. So since it happens in every single branch statement, and we have our branch statement set up as an if, elif, elif, right? I could take it out of the branch statements because it's always going to happen. And now my code has become much shorter. It's become like, I don't know, I think 150 lines shorter. All right? So shorter is always better, and so this is better. So let's go ahead now and run our code and see if it still works. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, so this is a problem, right? When I click off of the screen, it's still running the click function, which means that none of this if code is happening, right? And if you notice now what is happening in the if code, it's printing out what the player chose and the player's picture. What the player chose and the player's picture. What the player chose and the player's picture. So since we're not clicking on the button, none of the player's choice is going to be printed on the screen. So none of that's happening. But since we took this out of the picture, out of the if statement, then this is always going to happen. So the computer is going to choose, okay? And it's going to show on the screen. So this was a challenge exercise, but I guess now we have to do it because of the way that we restructured our code. So what we want to do is we only want to do this block of code if they clicked on a button, okay? So there's different ways we could do it. I guess the most straightforward way is just to combine all of these expressions into one expression. Okay. So what I can say here is I could say if that's true, and I could put parentheses around it. And what does that mean? That means they clicked on the button of the rock, right? Or the other one is true where they clicked on the scissors, or where the other expression is true where they clicked on the paper. If any of those are true, then print out what the computer chose. But if they didn't click on the rock, that's false. Or they didn't click on the paper, that's false. Or they didn't click on the scissors, that's false. Then the whole expression will be false, and it won't do this, right? So let's go ahead and do that then. So let's grab the scissors Boolean expression that checks if we clicked on the scissors box. I'm going to paste it right over there. And then I'm going to get the paper Boolean expression, and I'm going to paste it right in here. So now what our Boolean expression says is if they clicked on the rock button, or they clicked on the paper button, or they clicked on the scissor button, then print out what the computer chose. All right? But if not, then don't print out what the computer chose. So let's try that. I'm going to click off. Nothing's happening. Right? I click on, and that happens. I click off, it clears the screen. Okay. So now it works a little bit better because when I click off of the screen, it doesn't show what the computer chose. And so it is a little bit annoying that when I click off of the screen, that both of them disappear. Right? What would be the best way to do this is if I clicked off of the screen, that none of this disappears, and it just stays, everything just stays the same until I click on another button. So maybe I could set that as a super challenge exercise because that seems kind of complicated to do.